welcome everyone who is here. We will start very soon with our third talk of the Art of Printmaking International. My name is Ilaria Cazzini. I'm Heritage Engagement Officer here at Edinburgh Printmakers. And the series of talks aims to represent the work and the history of 5 printmaking studios based all over the world and connect their respective audiences and networks to each other. This program of talks is part of Castlemills Then and Now, which is a heritage project by Edinburgh Printmakers and is supported by the National Lottery Heritage Fund, so made possible by money raised by National Lottery players. The third talk this evening is given by Powerhouse Arts and Manhattan Graphic Center in Brooklyn, New York City. We have added their website and other useful links in the chat, so you're all more than welcome to check those out. Before I introduce our speakers tonight, I would just like to remind everyone, all attendees, to please remain muted for a duration of the talk. After the presentation by our speakers, there will be time for questions where you can use the raise hand option on Zoom and wait to be called by myself, or type your question in the chat and my colleague Razan, who's joining today as well, will read it out to our speakers on your behalf. So Powerhouse Arts, and part of Powerhouse Arts is Manhattan Graphic Center, which supports the learning and practice of fine art printmaking by providing an affordable, inclusive, and professional studio and exhibition space where a community of printmakers at all stages of artistic development can create and present their work. To encourage greater appreciation of printmaking, MGC offers public programs including classes in traditional experimental techniques, fellowships, artist talks, and outreach to public school students, as well as exhibitions including member, curate, and exchange shows. Since their official relaunch at Powerhouse Arts, MGC became the largest community print studio in Brooklyn. As the community counterpart to Powerhouse Arts' professional collaborative print shop, MGC complements Powerhouse Arts' existing fabrication services and also serves as a teaching and learning lab, adding facilities and expert practitioners in intaglio, relief, and lithography processes as well as screen printing. So we're joined today by 2 speakers. We have Lisa D'Archijan from MGC Community Print Studio, and she's the director of the MGC Community Print Studio. Lisa is a visual artist, librarian, educator based in New York. Her visual work has been featured in exhibitions at Yale University and in galleries in New York, Los Angeles, and Kyoto. A background in painting and illustration led her to printmaking. Lisa first came to Manhattan Graphic Center in 2015 as the recipient of the Printmaking Fellowship and has maintained a commitment to the studio in a series of roles, including member, monitor, committee chair, board member, and officer, and is now director of the studio. You can find her online at lisadarkijan.com and on Instagram at LDArkijan. And the other speaker today is Luther Davis from Powerhouse Arts Print Shop Director. Luther Davis is a master printer and director of the Powerhouse Arts Print Shop. Luther also teaches printmaking at Parsons School of Design. He was the co-founder of Fourth Estate, a fine art publisher focused on producing limited editions with emerging artists that was active from 2005 to 2015. In a typical year, Luther and his team collaborate with around 80 artists a year and prints 300 unique projects. So I'm very excited and happy to welcome both of them to the talk today. And yeah, hello, Luther and Lisa. Thanks for joining us from Brooklyn.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
It's great to have
very
you
exciting.
both. Yeah, and I'll leave it with you, Luther. I don't know if you want to start us off by telling us about Powerhouse Print Shop.
I would be delighted to. So the Powerhouse Print Shop is one of several fabrication facilities here at Powerhouse Arts. Powerhouse Arts is a nonprofit arts center that is called Powerhouse Arts because we've rehabilitated an old abandoned power station. It's a 170,000 square foot facility that houses print and wood and metal and ceramics and has community shops in print and ceramics, and then professional fabrication services in print, ceramics, metal, wood, and whatever combination thereof we can come up with. So
Sorry,
a
Luther,
lot,
can I just
Yeah.
cut in quickly? Your
yes,
orientation, you're horizontal, but the video is vertical. So it might
weird.
be just need to do a quick spin. Fab,
Yeah,
thank you.
how's that?
Better. Thank you very much.
and
That's great. Thanks.
and registration of images is obviously not my forte. Thank you for pointing that out. So I am have been a part of Powerhouse Arts for almost 10 years. Before that, I was the director of Axel Editions, another print shop that was a for-profit print shop, fine art print shop. And that shop tragically ended, and Powerhouse Arts asked our team to join their mission in figuring out how to create a community arts hub and fabrication. So I've been part of Powerhouse Arts from design phase. And what's interesting, and as Lisa and I give you tours, is we have a new facility connected to a historic landmark, 120-year-old building. And the spaces are built to be print shops from the beginning. So we're not reconfiguring an old warehouse in the sense of these spaces. They're designed by architects and engineers to be print shops. So they're pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. That makes like such a difference. That is actually the case here at Edinburgh Printmakers as well. And it's something that people don't often think about, how a well-designed print studio, really considering almost the choreography of artists within it, is quite a unique thing. Can you tell us more about sort of how Powerhouse came about in general? Sort of how long has it been in this new building that you're mentioning?
The print shop was the first, I should say the collaborative print shop is the first of the shops to move in. And we moved in almost 3 years ago. And then MGC, Manhattan Graphic Center, is in the process of moving in and building out now. And so I can't wait to show you a bit of what we have going on. And then Lisa, you're going to give a hard hat tour of a shop in progress of being built out, correct?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So everybody who's joining us today will get a sense of our version of getting a shop up and running with our history of programming, equipment, etc.
Great. Yeah, so then if you want to show us, Luther, sort of the areas, that'd be great, and kind of talk us through well, yeah, the different projects maybe that you're working on now. I mean, what you can tell us.
Yes, I will. I will show you everything that I can. We, as you indicated before, we are a very busy shop. There's 7 master printers in our shop working on a variety of projects. We have a queue of a few months of people working with us. And it's active. They're actively printing now. So I will take you a little bit. Hopefully, I'll catch them before they're done. I'll just start where I am now, which is our cutting station. So we are currently working on a project with Alex Dodge, and it's a print publication that we are publishing ourselves. And so here's a work by Alex Dodge. It's a silkscreen in many, many layers of an ink formulated for printing Braille. So there's actually a texture that's on here that feels like wet tile. And you can actually feel like, you know, printers don't always get to touch, or I should say patrons don't always get to touch prints, but here everyone's encouraged to touch the print. And so we printed this over the course of last week and are just finishing its production today with trimming in our paper cutter here. This is an old 1970s hydraulic cutter. And so a lot of the work we do is coming to us. We buy parent sheets of paper. So these are some of the storage racks. And then we cut the paper down to size. Hopefully your feed is catching up. We have a very long shop. It's very long and narrow. It's kind of like a hallway. But so we have individual spaces that are sort of cordoned off. The entryway comes off of a elevator or on the 4th floor, and you enter, and we have a relief and etching station that doesn't get a lot of play because we're mostly known as a screen printing studio. And this is our artist Alex Dodge, who's walking walking down. Our exposer, this is our screen exposer. It's fairly large
Yeah.
because we have some, I don't know how to judge this. So you have these, hopefully you can see, these are very large screens.
Yeah.
In inches, they're 120 inches, so 10 feet wide by 76 inches tall. And so we are printing, and I said
Really large scale.
yeah, they're large scale. We got slightly smaller ones. Artists will come to us. We will print for them, with them. They'll either be in the studio or they'll be coming in once a week to check on progress. We really adapt to the artist's needs. A lot of artists that we work with, oh, by the way, the floors are very wet because we've had to increase the humidity. It's very dry here. So the best way for us to increase humidity is to just make everything wet.
Well, that's a quite nifty solution.
Yeah. I want to catch them while they're printing. This is Thomas. You're getting ready to print? I don't think so. Okay. All right. So he's about to take lunch. This is John Bartolo, one of our master printers, who is printing an ink that is dried with light. So right now it's very subtle. He's doing a subtle buildup of a Braille ink. We're getting all of our Braille done this week. And then it goes through a light oven. So the ink is wet on this side and it comes out on the other side completely dry. And allows us to print on it another time. Because it's so dry in here, we are trying to do all of our UV. Our ultraviolet ink doesn't dry through evaporation. So it's a good time for us to be doing printing with ultraviolet inks. And then,
that is incredible. That is honestly so good to see.
This is one of our screen presses that is very large. And so when we're printing here, we're almost always operating teams of 2. By the way, these claws are also, we wet to have
more
humidity. Yeah. And part of it is that we have this amazing air handling system that brings in up to 14,000 cubic feet per minute of fresh air. And unfortunately, there's no humidification attached to that system. So we also have to combat, we got the humidity under control in the summers, but not during the winters. Another project that we're working on is benefit print for the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. The project is with Amy Sherrill. It's the large prints that we have to use double racks for because they're so big. And this will end up being about 70 colors when we're done. So it has right now very subtle shifts in colors. And so right now we're just have the basis of skin tones down. And so this is a sort of project that will take months for us to finish. And then the project that John is taking the UV dryer takes just a few days of printing. So,
and how many artists, how many printmakers would they be working on the bigger project, the one for the museum?
That'll be 3 or 4 printers all working on that at the same time. And meanwhile, we're shooting screens for community members who want to print in their own studios. We're also doing smaller projects. John is, if you haven't seen a semi-automatic clamshell press, this is a clamshell press that does the squeegee and the flooding automatically. So it allows us to set the pressure, set the speed, and that will be consistent for the whole run. And then we just have to worry about registration and fine-tuning printing as we go. And so the work here has been done largely with acrylic inks, and it says it's a subtle map of the United States and the population of Black Americans in each of the states. So when it's done, you'll actually be able to feel. I don't know if I can capture the Braille. But you actually be able to feel the buildup of the ink on here. Which is kind of fun. It's a neat process. We also do quite a bit of hand printing, and that's done all on this long table over here. So here we will do without a vacuum. We'll set up individual printings, and and we'll print as a team. So often artists are coming to us with work on canvas and panels that they want silkscreen. Silkscreen is very adaptable. And so we'll just print all around this table as a group. We also, just to give you a little bit of our view, we are on,
what a gorgeous day.
yeah, we are on the sunny Gowanus Canal. This is Powerhouse Arts was founded because a lot of the spaces that we are, a year ago, if we looked out here, there would be a lot of one-story spaces with machine shops, car mechanics, and artist studios. They are largely been knocked down to make way for these 23-story condominiums. And so Powerhouse Arts founder wanted to save the artist community here and give them something back in return. And so built Powerhouse Arts as a way of preserving these fabrication jobs in the area. But you can see across the way, this will be another 23-story building. There'll be another one here. And part of the impetus between Powerhouse Arts is, and why this is a critical time, is this is the Gowanus Canal. It's one of the most polluted waterways in the United States, but they've spent the last decade cleaning it. So now it's all the historic polluted water from chemical manufacturing, from ink manufacturing, has been cleaned, and now it's become prime real estate. So we really needed to, as a group, felt we needed to save this building.
A space, yeah.
Yep.
Does the building then also have like individual studio space for artists, or is it mainly just a kind of collaborative studios like the print studio? You mentioned ceramic and
yeah. So there are no, we do have artists in residence. We have 3 artists in residence, and they have some individual spaces that are being mapped out in the building. However, for the most part, because there are other spaces in New York where artists can get individual studios, we've really focused on bench space, shelf space, ways of working as a group rather than as individuals. And that's a really important distinction because there's a ton of little painting studios all over, but there's nothing, you know, in New York to this scale for metal, wood, and other things. Just a quick, we coat our screens here out in the open under these lights, and then we dry our screens in this closet, which has dehumidifiers and fans running at all times, very arid. And then we clean our screens. Hopefully I'm not moving too fast for the feed.
No, we can see.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see quite well.
We clean our screens in these big, beautiful backlit, ventilated sinks, power wash, and then filter out. One of my favorite things is we filter out all the particulate matter down to 5 microns in this complicated filter. So these are some of the interesting things that we've added on with having resources. You know, we also look off into this really. We'll look into a large event space on this side, and then we bridge. Sorry, I'm going to take this slow. We bridge into another event space, and hopefully I don't lose you here. And
we can wait in case.
Okay. And this is
oh wow, yeah.
I don't know if I didn't lose you. We have a very large
yeah, no, we can still hear you.
22,000 square foot event space here where we will be hosting our first annual Brooklyn Fine Art Print Fair in late March of this year.
Incredible. Great. I mean, thank you for showing us all the facilities. It's great to see just the scale of it as well. I think for maybe other people in attendance that might have surprised them as it surprised me, but it's and the work being done, and also I mean just another place where, as you said, it's less about the individual artist and more creating facilities for collaboration and collaborative work and sort of working together with artists and printers in creating a work. Is there, I mean, you already showed us quite a few projects actually. Is there, I would say, is there one of them that you're more excited about, or one to come that you really
well, I'll show you a couple.
Well?
Yeah, I'll show you a couple of interesting things that we're working on. Once again, I just want to tout my team that some of them we've been working together for 25 years, and we've gone a very long journey to get to Powerhouse Arts. As Manhattan Graphics, when you get to talk, when we or quickly pass you off to Lisa, it's a very long history. And I just want to mention that in Brooklyn in general, there's a very rich print community. And we each, we're not, when I first moved to New York, it was a very combative, in the 90s, very combative community, in that people had sort of carved out their little fiefdoms of artists, and their processes were unique to their studios, or so believed. And then what's really changed and I wasn't welcome to go visit other studios. They were afraid that I would steal their tricks.
Yeah.
And so what's really changed in New York, and specifically in Brooklyn, is that we, as print shops, we work together. We realize we have a greater ecosystem we're supporting, that even in the best days with the best knowledge, this is a hard job, and nothing ever goes right all the time, even with the best experience possible. So we really, I think the new generation, part of it was, part of it, so much started being shared online. You had online forums devoted to printmaking, and then Facebook and Instagram and all on YouTube really have allowed a rapid exchange of knowledge. And I think that an open, here for the large part, we have an open arms sort of compassion for our compatriots in the field. Within a 45-minute walk of Powerhouse, there are a dozen other print shops, all doing fine arts, all having individual artists that are in love with the individual print studios. When I was younger, I got jealous of every print project that another printer did, and now I realize it's really that as an ecosystem, there's enough work to go around, and so that's pretty glorious.
Are these print shops kind of specialized in some way in a technique more than other? I feel like you've showed us quite a lot about screen printing. Would you say, is that your specialty where you excel more?
Yeah, we're known. I was originally fell in love with printmaking because of etching. So the intaglio process is why I moved to New York, and I moved with my own print shop, and then got a job in a silk screen shop doing etchings, but got a job in a silk screen shop. And then we have just slowly built up our repertoire of specialty screen printing techniques and knowledge. So yeah, by and large, we're mostly doing screen printing. We do use digital printing as a tool as well. Not here, but we have in the first floor, we have grand format printers capable of printing 10 feet wide and an infinite length, so billboard size printing. And those machines have been donated to Powerhouse Arts, and we're learning to use them and giving access to artists of industrial sized print equipment, which is really changing, a vocabulary too.
And allows people to think differently, to have different ideas, knowing that they can achieve them.
Exactly, and to know that we can print on something and then it can go into a water jet cutter and be cut into pieces, or vice versa, or into a laser printer or cutter. It's just fascinating seeing. We have a ceramic shop, and they have a 3D printer for ceramics too. So we're always thinking about various ways we can collaborate across media here, and it's all as a central hive. I want to show you quickly. So the big print I showed you for SF MoMA is this artist, Amy Sherrill. And so this is a completed work we did last year. This is a 75 color screen print with there's no halftones. It's all spot colors, and it has all very nuanced shifts in colors. So, it's all very subtle detail. And there's still, a demand, we live in a digital world, but you can't really get the type of colors that we can get here with any sort of CMYK printer. And the artist knows it, and the publishers know it, and it's on a 600 gram paper. It's just very luxurious sort of stuff. In the back we have a Pat Steer that we did where Pat's painting directly on the films in the shop, and it has some very lovely sort of nuancy tones in it as well. So we really try to, here as collaborative printers, we try to meet the artist's working style and make our techniques adapt to each
Yeah.
artist as an individual.
Yeah, and really taking into consideration the media that they usually work in, as you said, like, so if they're used to painting and how to translate that
Yes.
into
Yeah.
screen printing language, let's say. So
Yeah,
Um,
and then quickly, the Paste Paper, which is a fine art paper manufacturer, or they do limited edition paper. We're collaborating on some interesting paper products with them. So this is a all paper pulp that they made in their studio. It's fairly large, and so we're doing some printing on this. So we're also collaborating with other shops in the neighborhood and other publishers.
That's great. That's yeah, you are keeping yourselves busy, that's for sure. But yeah, incredible, like, yeah, different kind of perspective and voices coming in and considering the medium really in an experimental way and how it can be adapted. Thanks for showing us around. I wonder if we should maybe move on to Lisa and talk about MGC, and then I know we're gonna see you again maybe later if you want to show us the digital printing that you just mentioned on the other floor.
Certainly. Yes, I'll do
Yeah.
that. Okay,
Great.
I'll be in the background. Right.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Hi, Lisa.
Hi there, thank you, yeah.
Hi. So I believe you're in the same building, just in a different area of it.
I am, I'm right upstairs from the studio where you just met Luther. So we're on the
Great.
5th floor and the collaborative print shop is on the 4th floor.
Right, nice. And yeah, do you want to tell us a bit more of what Manhattan Graphics Center is and how it sits within the broader sort of Powerhouse Arts sort of building and just generally the organization?
Sure. So Manhattan Graphics, or MGC Community Print Studio, builds on a history as a community print shop. And here at Powerhouse Arts, we're the sort of public-facing print shop where people can come in and learn as individuals or as part of a cohort or a class. People will be able to work as members or as sort of at a daily drop-in rate in any number of the traditional and experimental techniques we are equipped to print in. And so those include those large umbrella topics that you mentioned: silkscreen, intaglio, litho, relief, etc., as well as all of the kinds of specific and more niche techniques included under all of those umbrellas. Manhattan Graphics Center started in 1986 by a group of artists that were displaced when another studio closed their location in Manhattan. And so this core group of artists secured a space in Manhattan, and in order to support the space, started offering classes. So MGC was an all-volunteer run organization for a period of time and then officially incorporated as a nonprofit. We've had several kinds of staffing models over the years, several kinds of administrative structures, officially had a board of directors in the early 2000s. The studio has had to move several times over the years in response to trends in real estate and all those sorts of external factors. Most recently, we were in Midtown Manhattan near Times Square, for anybody familiar with the area. And, through that kind of collaborative community network of printmakers that Luther described here in New York, we learned about Powerhouse Arts and had the opportunity to discuss what a collaboration would look like, and that prompted our move here over the summer last year. And we're in the process of continuing the studio layout and redesign in preparation to launch, fingers crossed, in February.
Right. Okay, yeah, so you have a date, so it's really soon.
Yeah, we
Oh,
do.
that's good to hear. So MGC sounds like very much they had education at the core from the get-go, like started, as you said, as an artist space, but to raise money, they focused on courses and classes. Does it always so have like an open access studio sort of system, like people can use, different printmakers can just use the facilities? Can you tell us sort of how that is set up? Is it on a membership basis or?
Yeah, absolutely. So we offer both options to people. People may join as members and use what we call open workshop time to work independently in any part of the studio. And then classes are sometimes that first introduction to the space. So classes are open to the public. Members administratively have a way to participate in classes as well, but we prioritize having multiple ways for people to join the community. And that might include through volunteer monitoring or working with committees for any of our initiatives like exhibitions or fellowships or things like that. And with classes sort of being a structured way to do it and memberships being a way to kind of do it in an independent fashion.
Yeah. And do you have courses, because I'm not familiar with the American sort of education system. So is printmaking included in the curriculum in school? Do you have courses where you engage with local schools to kind of, you know, share about printmaking and, you know, train the printmakers of the future?
Yeah, you know, it's something that's become rare in kind of compulsory education,
Yeah.
primary education, and where we kind of fill that void is through our visiting printmaker workshop, where we connect with public high schools in our immediate area in New York City and provide instruction over a week to a group of high school juniors or seniors. So we're talking about 15, 16, 17-year-olds. And this really kind of complements a lot of that digital focus on artwork by bringing in these traditional methods. And it also fosters a kind of sense of collaboration and connectedness to a slower process that kind of changes the way that these young artists are able to think through their work.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
an interesting place to be like a bridge to tradition in a sense, but bring it into the future.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I agree, especially in such a for generation, younger and younger generation, where the digital sphere is so just permeates everything, because that's all they know, to reconnect to more manual work and to, as you said, slow processes, and accepting what kind of something that Luther just mentioned before, like failures, accepting things don't always go to plan, expecting accepting external factors. So, well, you've already kind of mentioned a little bit about how you're just about to start, but do you want to just sort of set up the new studio and design a new studio? Do you want to tell us more about it, or even show us a little bit
Sure,
about
I'm
the
happy to
studio?
do
Yeah.
that. So I have to always give a shout out to our beloved Fred Mershimer, intaglio master and MGC tried and true stalwart supporter and instructor. He's lent his talents toward designing the last several spaces for MGC. And so he and I are working together to design the layout here in the studio, with him, of course, having the most seasoned, in-depth experience, and me kind of learning as I go as well. And so I'm happy to pause for a moment and give you a sense of everything we're working on and give you a sense of our layout at the same time. So just allow me a moment to switch my camera around here. Here we go.
There you go.
So the space we're in here at Powerhouse Arts is about 4,800 square feet. It's almost double the size of the studio we left in Midtown Manhattan. We've got several sort of zones in the space. This is sort of our etching area. We brought with us 3 etching presses. So an American French tool and 2 Charles brand etching presses. What you see here on the back wall is a combination of things. We've got our plate cutter, of course. This area with the white shelving will be paper soak for intaglio processes. But we're also excited that we're able to expand to offer stone lithography in this new location, where in the past we had been primarily able to work only in hand-drawn litho on ball grain aluminum or on photolitho plates. Here's where I'll highlight our incredible ventilation in the space. There's continuous fresh air exchange throughout, but then we have the addition of extraction arms. This will be over in a cleanup area, so that 4 artists working next to each other will have their own localized exhaust for whatever their solvent is. And then we maintain the tradition of the rosin aquatint box for our intaglio processes.
That's great
with
to
its
see.
own distinct ventilation as well.
It's great to see
A broader look
such an
coming
old
around
piece.
the corner here. We're heading into our litho area. And you have a sense here of where group workstations will take place. So supported On top of flat files and metal shelving will be these group workstations. Over here we have litho. In the distance, it'll be more of our etching area. And again, we've got extraction arms equipped to remove any sort of solvent off-gassing from litho processes. Coming around the bend here, here's a peek at what the layout looks like. So there's been several versions of this floor plan, sort of tinkering with the existing space, trying to determine how to maximize amount of workstations. With the expanded space, we're able to welcome about double the amount of artists that we were able to in our former location. More workstations here, sort of metal shelving, and then looking toward the back of the room, you'll see where our silkscreen workstations will be. So in our old space, we had about 17 workstations, including combined silkscreen, etching, and litho. Here we've added a dedicated studio classroom space. So that allows us to run classes while people are working independently. And I'll show you that in just a moment. But right here is where our sort of exposure room, semi-dark, dark room will be. We've got a smaller horizontal version of the exposure unit Luther showed you in their shop. And then our custom sink outfitted with its own extraction hood for developing photolitho plates, developing other chemical processes related to intaglio, et cetera. And this unit will be able to shoot screens as well as plates. So there'll be a combined functionality for us. Silk screen storage will be in this location, as well as the screen coating area. And I can give you a sense of our silk screen washout area that also has filtration underneath, as Luther described, in their space. So we've got two smaller units for high traffic, for members using the studio together. And then this area is where our classroom will be, with workstations along the walls, materials forthcoming. And we've got an additional etching press. This is our fourth etching press. And ventilation, as well as you can see throughout the room, but localized as well with these pull down arms. And what's new for us, in addition to having this as a classroom space, will be that it is available to people to reserve as an editioning room.
I see.
So,
So be able for hire.
It can be challenging to complete an edition of your work, but with this new press, we offer that as an amenity so that people can have that as an option. And we are also able to provide technical assistance to anybody printing an edition.
That's great. Yeah, I find so fascinating all these extraction fans. They're really interesting. And I have a question actually about the building. So
Unable to hear you.
oh, can everyone else hear me? Or is it just
I can hear you.
yeah? Can you hear me now, Lisa? We're still
Well, I can maybe, while Lisa troubleshoots that, I can answer your question about the extraction.
Yeah, the question was like, I mean, I'm aware that the building is a sort of let's call it historical building, was a power station. So has it been fully renovated inside? It looks like it's been completely renovated and installed with a specific function in mind.
Yeah, so each of the spots, whether they're welding, whether they're welding or print or ceramics, each one had their own material hazards and chemical. A very famous health and safety of the arts consultant named Monona Rossell consulted with us as we developed these programs to bring us to the very state-of-the-art extraction for all the processes we need, down to how is dust collected. We have huge dust collectors for the wood shops outside. They're like 3 stories tall. And the idea is to provide, as people come in, a sense of environmental and health safety. And that if that's the foremost thing that we're teaching, is all that is a sort of a cautious take on art and art practices from the beginning, so that we can do, for example, in the United States, rosin aquatint is frowned upon in most schools because they don't have, because it is, and I don't know if this, tell me if this is the case there, but it's people are frightened by the rosin. And now, meanwhile, I've talked to, all right, let me step on my soapbox. I've talked to violinists and cellists who use the same rosin for their bows, and it's next to their face as they're playing. They've never had a concern about it. It's health and safety. But for printmakers in the United States, airborne particulates in particular are considered dangerous. So most of the universities have abandoned rosin in favor of airbrush aquatints. So we're very happy. And the historic box that you saw was built in '85 by one of the founding members of MGC. Lisa, are you back? So each of the processes, so that's one of the things, back to the health and safety aspects of it. You can do anything in the world safely if you put the resources behind it. So there's some things we decided we didn't have the resources to do, like bronze casting and anything to do with epoxy resins, multiple. So there's some things we aren't equipped for.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's a very good point considering just historically printmaking, the toxicity of printmaking historically throughout history. And so being mediums that really consider this toxicity or consider health and safety, and also like environment, and being more and more environmentally friendly and less sort of polluting, is a great they're great steps forward to make, and to, as you said, welcome new audiences, make sure audiences and new generations of artists that very much have that concern, as most younger generation have, to make them feel like this is being thought out, and this is there's like work being done. So it's great. I mean, they're incredible facility, Lisa. I'm so surprised. I'm so excited. I wish I'd come last year. I wish I could come tomorrow and I could see some
You're
other
always welcome.
attendees. Thank you. Some other attendees, just their facial expressions, it's incredible to see it. But yeah, Lisa, I don't know if you want to tell us about, I mean, obviously you're probably very busy now with, as you were showing us, the sort of setup and the design of a new print studio, but being that MGC has such a long history from the 80s, is there any projects that might have even happened before your time that you think are very representative of MGC, that you're very proud of, their sort of highlight? Or is it just generally sort of the ongoing educational focus?
In an overarching sense, what I'm so proud of is the community that we've built since that time, and that community includes people that are not just new to printing, but maybe new to art entirely. And they're working side by side with artists who are incredibly accomplished and have their work in major collections. And so there are opportunities for everybody to find their way into printmaking or into our studio and be active participants, learning from each other as much as from an instructor. So that would be my overarching point to emphasize. And then in terms of other projects from that community comes things like international exchange portfolios or exchange shows. We recently had an exchange exhibition with a group of printmakers from India, and we'll be posting our version that goes to the studio in India. The Visiting Printmakers workshop with high school students is a highlight, and our fellowship program is another, where we provide subsidized experiences for artists who either want to get into printmaking for the first time or expand a printmaking process that already exists, but lack of access to the facility sort of precludes them taking it any further. And so we can come in and support those experiences, which are often very experimental in nature, and sort of pave a way toward more formalized collaborations, potentially with a shop like Luther's.
That's great. Just so you know, that we have a comment in the chat that says jaw-dropping space and potential. Amazing to see. Thank you for the tours.
If I may, in the last minute before our Q&A, you said we have a Q&A start any minute?
Yeah, if you want to know, I was going to pass it on to you first to show us the...
Yeah, I'll
if you
spin this
have
around,
managed to come to the digital.
Yeah, I'm in the digital lab now, and you'll see. So as I show you this space is interesting because it has 30-foot tall ceilings, and also is connected to a machine, a metal shop that has capability of cutting metal with water up to 10 inches thick. So we're really thinking about how this facility will hybridize with wood and metal as well. So print and wood and metal all joining forces. So I'm going to spin the camera around just show you a little bit of what's happening here today. This is one of our master fabricators, master printer and stitcher, Nellie Davis, who's doing some sewing of some thin, what is the material now? Voile.
But we're going to print some samples.
So Nellie and Dennis, who are another one of our masters, are going to be printing on that material in this very large latex-based printer. This machine is 20 feet long. Dennis, for proportion, that's master printer Dennis Soroshik. This machine was donated to us by a wallpaper company. It's capable of printing 120 inches wide and then up to an 800-pound roll. So it's a machine roll. The machine feeds this material through. What's interesting about this machine, as far as digital technologies, it coats the media, the substrate, right before it prints. So we don't have to use digitally coated media. We can stick artist's 12-ounce canvas straight into it and print directly on artist materials. And that's really unique as far as a digital machine. The inks themselves are these big boxes of, box wine, here.
Yeah.
And then we also have a large, a grand format ultraviolet printer.
Yeah.
This is also capable of printing roll to roll, but what's neat about this machine is it prints, like the machine you saw upstairs, this prints an ink dried with light, an epoxy-based ink. It's a monomer, so it's not a two-part process. It's dried instantly with light, and it allows us to print on metal, wood, glass, plastic, paper, canvas, up to 1 3/4 inch thick.
Yeah.
And so this is and we also have one of the very newest Epson large format printer that prints violet, orange, and green as well. So hybridize, and we have a digital embroidery machine. So hybridizing between these processes allows us to do a lot of unique projects, one-off things that most artists wouldn't be able to afford to do in silkscreen, and allows us to print on a wide, wood, and this is printing on beeswax.
Yeah, exactly. Like experimentation and just cross media.
This is Dennis loading a roll of material in. And then, this will eventually be opening into our retail spot where we're hoping members from the print shop, MGC, and the ceramic shop will be able to showcase and sell their wares to the community. And then that opens into the metal shop, which is
the metal shop
doing absolutely wild projects on their own. So, I mean, it's.
Well, even these things in the foreground, they're quite wild to see.
Yeah.
You open the correct
door.
The
idea, I know. Yeah. And so as a fabricator, as someone who works with artists every day, to say, we have another master and another media who can answer that question, right? It allows us to attain sort of results that I've never even been able to conceive of, because there's other people joining the conversation. And in turn, our community members who are entering have access to all this knowledge as well. So
and just being all of you under the same roof and just just walk up, I'm guessing, to the next, as you just did, to the next door. And be like, can I pick your brain?
And so there are I want to backtrack to something you said. It used to be in New York, and up until the 70s, you would learn print in high school. And they were trade schools. You'd be working on letterpress machines because this is a very print-heavy city. And now high schools are starting to bring back silkscreen because it's a low-cost, easy entryway. And some are bringing back relief printing and hopefully etching. And they're coming back to it because of this hands-on experience that we call it STEM here, science, technology, engineering, and math. And they're starting to add an A to that to be STEAM. So add art back to it, because there's a lot of people who desire that, and they desire it at an early age. In the university and college system, almost every school here has a print shop. So, and there's I don't know, dozens and dozens and dozens of colleges and universities.
And is printmaking something that is part of this sort of foundational fine art course in college and university, or is something that is elective? Because we've seen different trends in like in the UK, so I'm just curious what's the difference,
So
like what's
the
the situation there?
Yeah, the current trend is that they're mostly been turned into electives. You can minor, where I teach at Parsons, you can have a minor in print. In the 80s, there was, and early 90s, there was sort of, and Lisa, I don't know if you witnessed this as well, but there was a lot of infighting pre-digital about who shall have the glory of fine art, and painting by and large fought for their position so hard that they in the United States they were the sort of at the top of, or the top of the pyramid.
Yeah, the hierarchy.
That is by and large changed in that making centers and facilities like ours really need print, and they have to have print because there's so many artists who want their images on things, not necessarily limited edition prints, but the need to make things. And then we had, as letterpress shops who traditionally printed, print adjacent, fine art print adjacent materials were closing. Here in Brooklyn, all those machines were gobbled up, and a new letterpress revolution started, which led to a Rezo print revolution. And so it's just like self-sustaining system of interest in print,
Yeah. And in addition to what Luther's describing, there's also an opportunity to expand the reach of print and what we can do to educate people about print, because there can also be a misunderstanding of what a fine art print is, or what a hand pulled print is.
That was my follow-up question. If you felt like some sort of like sharing and engaging with people in the conversation of why these practices are important to be maintained, and the difference between a digitally printed print and, as you said, a pulled print, if there's like that understanding already, or if you need to do that work of sort of filling in that gap and people just assume most prints are digital.
So I would say that we still have a very savvy gallery and collectorship here in New York. However, it's this constant need to sustain and educate the next generation, and to actually, I remember when Photoshop 1 was entering the system, and and I learned everything in a dark room mechanics, and so I know what Photoshop's tools are called based on real work in the darkroom. And now that's not the case. So I have students who don't actually know how to use scissors properly. I think, but there's an interest in this. And MGC coming to Brooklyn is really important, because we haven't had a large community shop in Brooklyn for as long as I can remember, if ever. And it's it's for Brooklyn has a very large population. If you don't know it, if it was its own city, it'd be the third largest city in the United States, just Brooklyn. To have this in Brooklyn is really important to the communities that are here, because by and large, the artists live in there's a lot of artists living in Manhattan, so I shouldn't generalize, but there is a huge amount of artists in Brooklyn and Queens that aren't being served.
Great.
Yeah, and among that group, just to add on, among that group that is savvy about print, we're also meeting people that have worked so long in the digital space, they're really kind of longing for that interaction with materials again, to either have as a foil to the digital process or a complement.
Yeah, absolutely, as well. Because I mean, the two, they shouldn't be pitted against each other. They can work together. I'm gonna maybe stop us here. Thank you both again for the tours and for everything you said so far. I'm gonna open it up just to see if anyone in attendance wants to ask a question. I still have like a million, but I'm going to give FIFA the chance in a few minutes to maybe write them in the chat if you like, or you can also use the raise hand option so that we can see you, and then you can unmute yourself and ask a question directly if you prefer. I'll give maybe while people consider this, I'll ask a question that it's close to sort of my role here at EP as a heritage engagement officer, and also with our studio being in a heritage building, post sort of industrial, ex-industrial building in an area that is very much post-industrial, where most things around us have been demolished and rebuilt, and we're the kind of last remnant, sort of visible link to this past, this industrial past. My question is, yeah, if by chance, maybe not, but if the built-in social heritage of the power plant building itself is sort of present in your current work, or even in if it inspires the artist that use the studio at MGC, or if it's something you sort of consider if you're in touch with the communities that maybe were connected to that industrial past. Yeah.
Can I, if I just happen to be in the lobby now, so I'd love to share you a bit of how you're welcome to the space. And know that this building was a squat for artists for over a decade. And so the building itself is covered with graffiti left over from the original tenants when it was an unguarded facility that created community here. You know, this being the lobby, we have this very elaborate look into the, I can't, you're all, maybe can't see all the way up, but you can see the ceiling of the facility up there. This is a very welcoming wooden space, but everything else is concrete after here. But you have, you know, this is all the original steel work, you know, held together with rivets, 120 years. So there is this industrial presence that is everywhere. It sort of informs the how shall I say, the activities that will happen in here aren't meant to be precious. You know, they're meant to be, you know, laborious, you know, and they're meant to be, you know, we have, once again, there's graffiti everywhere. So this informs a bit of the aesthetic of the space, and I think is welcoming because, you know, people, and by the way, this is what the powerhouse looked like when it was a power plant. You know, it's coal coming in. I can't even imagine what it was like. But so,
do you know how, until when was it in function as a power plant?
Until 1950.
Okay.
So fairly, it was a 50-year career. What I was trying to say is that this, you know, not entering into an art space that's not precious, like, you know, it's not a gallery, it's not a museum, where there, you know, is, I think, important reset. Here's our public arts section where they make large public sculptures for museums and outdoor works. So they're wood and metal fabricators in here, independent of the wood and metal shops. So.
Yeah, I mean, what you just said is very important. I think often we don't consider, excuse me, just perceived obstacle for certain communities and demographic into walking into an art space because they have this museum like aesthetic or gallery aesthetic, and a place instead like this one looks very much like this is a making space, as you keep saying, a fabrication space. It's very important, and it gives a different kind of welcome to more people to feel like, oh, this is great here, this is where we make things, this yeah, I can definitely see that. Thanks for showing us that part too. Don't know if Lisa, you have anything to add?
In terms of the connection to the community, we're excited to kind of contribute to the work Powerhouse Arts is already doing to engage with the people in our immediate neighborhood to see what's most of use, and that of course starts with having access to the building, but it also extends into our programming and how we can continue to kind of be a part of that. So it's the beginning of a really exciting chapter, not just for MGC, but as Powerhouse continues to expand.
Yeah, I have a question for you in the chat, Lisa, from Joanne. Says, congrats on the stone lithography, Lisa. Have you got many stones and people wanting to practice it?
Well, you know, it's a little bit, we're building the Library of Stone, so we've got about 17 to start. They're about 17 by 23 inches each and about 3 inches thick, so they'll last us a good long time, but I'm eager to expand that Library of Stones, and I think as more people become aware that we're able to offer stone litho, that the word will travel.
Because you mentioned MGC has different studios. This is not the only one. Would this the only one that offers stone lithography, or is it offered in some of the other locations?
Well, to clarify, MGC had a series of locations, and so
okay.
yeah,
It's been moved.
this
Sorry,
is
my
our
bad.
That's okay. It's a complicated history, so I'm happy to clarify. We started in one space in Lower Manhattan, moved to another one, moved to a
Another
third,
space.
and then this is our sort
Our
of
fourth.
forever home now. And
Yeah.
so here we're able to kind of build the print shop of our dreams, and the sentiment of a jaw-dropping experience is something that our visitors share, or people that are familiar with our past or other local community print studios share in, because it's to have the amount of space and care in the construction of the facility and our individual studio is really unparalleled.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that. But yeah, it's good. It's great to know that stone lithography is gonna now be part of it, and it's gonna be this new exciting thing, technique. Just read. They're not question. But we have some comments from Spike Print Studios. Incredible facilities. What a space! And thank you for the interesting talk.
My pleasure. And as Spike reaches out, I really, the printmaking community differs everywhere you go. But so I appreciate the open arms that you extended to us, because we're proud of what we do. However, and then Bernadette is going to be showing here at our print fair, who just commented. But we think of what all of the global family of print as being really important. Because now we can be in dialogue, and we can share this knowledge across great distances.
Exactly. And also, as you said, every studio is different, and this is what we're seeing in this series of talk, but also shares a lot of the same kind of missions and aims, but also a lot of the same passion, and a lot of the same kind of energy and drive is very much shared across the globe in all our different ventures and our different sort of localities. Lots of other comments in the chat. I think I'd like to finish with one last question, especially because people who are attending or who might watch this talk in the future might be interested. If you can both clarify what kind of opportunities exist for international artists to visit or to engage through fellowships or through residencies, and access the studio. And I think that'd be a good place to finish.
Well, I will start with the Powerhouse side, because we're developing these programs ourselves from scratch, and intend to have multiple fellows who are artists that are coming here to teach us processes, and artists in residence that are collaborating. And these programs are building. We are waiting for development, which is the American way of saying fundraising, to sustain these programs longer terms. And so we're building the programs around the facilities here and how they can engage with fabricators. Lisa, you have a long history, so I'll let you take that over.
Sure. So for MGC, I mean, we offer virtual classes and welcome artists from all over the world as participants. We also do international calls for entry, so we are able to meet artists that way through participation in any of our exhibitions. We have a history of fellowships and scholarships, and those often draw interest from artists all over the world. And in addition to the print fair that Luther described, we're always eager to meet artists who want to be part of the studio, whether they're dropping in for a week on a visit to the city or whatever it might be. So there's lots of different ways for people to come be part of our community and print with us.
Great.
And
So
I'd love to do a portfolio exchange with Edinburgh printers.
I mean, when you mentioned that, I was like, oh, that sounds really fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so generally it's just a very good advice would be to just check your websites and look out for call outs for all these different possible projects and programs, and just reach
Yeah,
out, I
and
guess, for
certainly,
people.
yeah, and certainly make sure you're on our mailing list and social media
Mhm.
and so forth to have the kind of information as it becomes available.
And then Powerhouse is just working on. We've had our first tenure of artists in residence, and now that's being extended to the other areas of ceramics, metal, wood, and public art. And so there will be a steady rotation of cohorts through the building and a chance to work in print and metal at the same time, and also follow our website for those calls. We just are in the process of selecting next year's artist residence, so that call's ended, but it is a growing program.
It's going on. Great. Well, I'll see if anyone else maybe attending has any more questions. Trying to scan for any raised hand. Possibly not. We just get some really good comments in the chat, so I'm going to read them out. So this is all so cool. Oh my God, what a beautiful studio you have built, Luther and Lisa. I'm so excited for this new chapter for MGC. Thank you. Thank you for showing around and sharing about your playful printmaking practice. Thank you, Luther and Leith. This has been a fascinating talk. Thank you. So
Thank you
yeah,
for
it
having
just
us.
sounds like a lot of very positive comments in the chat, and everything seemed very clear. I will probably finish it here then, and just thank you both again for this very, very entertaining talk. I've enjoyed every minute. It's been great to see the building. It's been great to see the prints that you've showed us, and sort of the setup and the presses that you have and facilities. So yeah, thank you both so much for joining, for accepting my invitation, and just opening the virtual doors to both of your studios.
Yeah, thank you for having us, and lots more to come. And as Lisa said, come visit us in Brooklyn. And also, if happen to have some time to get away, the Print Fair weekend, which is March 27th through the 30th, we also have another print fair called the International Fine Art Print Dealers Association, which is happening in Manhattan. So that if you can get away to New York in March, it really will be a very exciting print weekend.
Well, I'll really think about it. That's very good. Great. So just to finish up for tonight, for everyone attending, I'll just remind everyone that this is part of a series of talks. So the next fourth talk will be given by the Fondazione Il Bisonte in Florence, Italy, and it'll be on Thursday, 27th February. Same time, 5 p.m. for GMT UK time, 6 p.m. in Europe, and 12 p.m. if you're on sort of Eastern Standard Time. And finally, the last stop will be Spike Print Studio in Bristol, England, and that will be on Thursday, 13th of March. So yeah, if you would like to be kept up to date with this series of talk of general EP programming, you can sign up to our monthly newsletter as well, which is at the bottom of our website. And yeah, thank you all for joining. This has been wonderful. What a great Thursday evening. And I hope you all have a nice rest of your evening and your day if you are in the States.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.